I have a lot of camera thoughts and I'm in a mood. So we're going to talk about them in bed with a glass of wine because winter is coming, the world is burning, and it gets dark at 4 p.m. So I implore you to join me. Let's cuddle under some blankets and talk cameras, photography, life, and try not to spill wine all over the bed. This is our agenda for today. I'm going to rant about a 14-year-old lens. I have a few complaints about the Sony zv-e1, which I'm filming with right now, and I'm going to gush about the Sony a7c II. Then I'm going to answer your spicy questions. Last month, I bought a used lens, and this used lens is the 16mm f2.8. This lens is for APS-C sensors. For demonstration purposes, I've put it on my Sony a7c II. Before I go on a ramble, I'm going to let the footage speak for itself. So I'm in Toronto to meet up with some friends and family, and then middle of next week I'm hopping on a train to Montreal. Let me show you around where I'm staying, which is in the heart of Toronto. There's just a kettle. Let me spin you around and show you. Sometimes I wonder if people can see me from the outside. Is it focusing? And there's also a sofa. It's pretty spacious. I think I spotted someone who saw me vlogging from outside. He's just smoking a dart, checking up on me every so often. So why did I buy this? If you've been watching for a while, you know that I like to put small lenses on my full frame camera body. I know what I said. The lens weighs 67 grams, and when paired with the Sony zv-e1, which weighs 487 grams, my math is saying that this total setup weighs about 554 grams. My unit of measurement for carrying anything before it starts to get annoying is the soup can. A standard soup can weighs about 400 to 500 grams. So I've been on this obsessive path where I've been trying to get a camera setup to be in or around this weight. I already own the 20mm f2.8, but being the camera nerd I am, I was just curious how much wider 16mm would look. And I figured this might be a really discreet, compact vlogging setup. But as you saw in the footage, it had some trouble focusing. I'm not really sure if it's the copy I have, or the fact that it's a lens from 2010, or maybe I had set my focus area to zone and probably Butterfingers, and maybe it really wasn't meant for video. At the end of the day, it's probably my fault. I think I'm going to rate this lens a 7 out of 10. Maybe it's too generous. It's still usable, and maybe the out of focus breathing kind of adds a little bit of some, I don't know, quality. What kind of quality would it be? But big points for its form factor. So now I want to talk about the Sony zv-e1. It is a full frame camera body with 12.1 megapixels. I have a couple of complaints or gripes about it. One of the reasons why I got this camera body was because it is one of the few Sony bodies with Dynamic Active Stabilization, which provides almost gimbal-like stabilization that I have not been able to experience with any other full frame camera body. However, when you do enable Dynamic Active Stabilization, my particular camera body, I don't know if this is happening with anyone else, the camera starts to identify as a clarinet. Let me demonstrate. I plan to send it to Sony to investigate. It's within the 1-year warranty period, and I should really get on that to have them take a look at it, but I've just been really lazy, to be quite honest. I'm one of those folks that hopes that the problem just goes away by itself. The other gripe I have with the Sony zv-e1 is not specific to the zv-e1, but just any camera that does not have anti-dust functions. The Sony a7c II has an anti-dust function where when you turn off the camera, there is like a little garage door that closes in front of the sensor. So if you're changing lenses, it minimizes, not necessarily eliminates, but it minimizes the amount of debris and dust that gets onto the sensor. And for some reason with the Sony zv-e1, almost every single time that I switch lenses, I always get dust or debris on the sensor, and it's in my footage and it really hurts my heart to see it. And I know there's like ways to like take out the debris and dust in post, but that's just like another thing, and I hate it. I'm just so annoyed. Again, it's not specific to the zv-e1. Anyways, maybe my problem is that I change lenses in bed and I just need to stop doing all sorts of things in bed and just, I don't know, change lenses in a less dusty place like a normal person. So yeah, that's just me. It's all my fault. But all in all, I'm still gonna keep my zv-e1. All of these things that I talked about are just minor inconveniences. Finally, I'm going to gush about the a7c II. I won't go into too much detail because I feel like my viewers don't really enjoy watching me talk positively about anything. People like to watch me complain. And in general, when I do talk about anything positively, it comes off as a little salesy. Anyways, so I have used the Sony a7c II for about a year now, and I have shot with it almost every day. And if Sony were to come out with an a7C Mark III, I probably would be the first in line for pre-ordering it. And now it's time for Q&A. First question is, can you do a photo breakdown of your favorite photos? For the sake of time, I'll just do one. My favorite photo of 2024 is this mushroom photo that I took in my backyard. There's a whole video where I go through the entire process from beginning to end. Now, it was my first time doing macro photography and mushroom photography in general and using an external light. So there were like 3 different firsts happening at the same time, and it was also really hot that day, so I would say that my strategy was to underexpose by 2 stops. So I made sure my exposure value was -2, put the EXIF data over here so that you can see exactly what the settings were, but it was shot during daytime. A lot of people thought it was shot during nighttime, but it's just the magic of underexposing and letting the subject take center stage. I don't have too much to say about this photo because it was minimally edited, and I think those are my favorite photos. You just nail it in camera, and it's just so satisfying to not have to do too much to it. This question is from Dan. The biggest photography win this year. I think my biggest photography win is seeing in frames and subframes. I have a few photos that I took recently that uses the concept of framing and subframing that I really like. Some I haven't posted yet, but in general, I find those kinds of photos bring me a lot of joy. I want to work framing into my photos a little bit more because I recognize that I'm a little bit all over the place with what I shoot. So I wanted to pick one thing, at least for a year, to be thoughtful and deliberate about. And having the discipline, or starting to have the discipline, to me is a win. Oh, I love and hate this question. I love this question because it's romantic. It's like a question around monogamous relationships. If you could have one lover forever, who would it be? But when it comes to cameras and lenses, I am in a polyamorous relationship. I actively date multiple cameras and multiple lenses. As Chelsea Northrup has on her Instagram bio, she is a polycamerous photographer. That's me too! Okay, to answer this question seriously, it would be the 85mm. I've trained my brain to look at a scene and know exactly how far I need to stand, and I immediately know what the 85mm focal length will encapsulate. It's just drilled into my brain. I think for like probably 3 or 4 years, I only shot with the 85mm. And I think that's like a really good example of what happens when you just focus on one thing in your photography and master it. So the next question is, what challenges or shortcomings in your photography are you looking to overcome next? Great question. So I find that I really suck at editing. I've had some mentoring sessions with a couple people on using masks, not relying on presets. I don't know. I find it a struggle for whatever reason. Beyond just adjusting and cropping, I find that there's a lot in Lightroom that I'm still trying to figure out. I thought I knew everything, but I don't. And trends are also coming and going. There's definitely trends within editing, and I'm trying my best not to fall into the trap of certain editing styles, because in about a year or 2 years, even a few months, like a certain look can start to look outdated. Or even just like not be afraid of taking an old photo and re-editing it. I don't really have a plan of action to tackle this particular shortcoming. I think it's just a matter of using every photo as an opportunity to get better at editing, whatever better is. Oh, crisp air. When I woke up, it was like minus 10 degrees Celsius. Saw like a light dusting of snow. Not snow, I think it's frost. But yeah, winter's upon us. Let's walk. Come on. He's sniffing. I heard that when dogs are sniffing around, it's because they're reading the news. That's their Wikipedia rabbit hole. Filmmaker Evolution asks, what would you do if you could restart the year? I'm not a regretful person, so I think everything I did this year is exactly what I set out to do, and I'm really happy with the way the year panned out. However, when it comes to filmmaking and making videos, I wish I taught myself to color grade a lot earlier. But I'm still not regretful of that, because I think if I spent too much time hung up on color grading and learning something I didn't know about, I probably wouldn't make videos. I think I'm slated to have completed about 30 videos by the end of this year, which is wild. I thought I'd be happy with like one video a month, which is like 12 videos a year, but I think I'm up to like, I think this might be my 28th video. If I was hung up on color grading and learning how to color grade, or learning some kind of technical aspect, or even being super self-conscious about how I talk to a camera, I probably wouldn't make anything. I'm glad that I started to film in log in September and started learning to color grade with the help of a lot of people mentoring me and a lot of great YouTube tutorials, and just like putting in the time to learn that. But I'm happy that I didn't let my lack of color grading knowledge stop me from making videos. Next question. What have you learned from your travel/street photography that you didn't already know? So I learned how to be familiar in an unfamiliar space. I'm a bit of an oddball in the street photography community because I don't live near urban areas. One thing I did earlier this year was visit European cities for 17 days. And I visited about 8 cities. So I went to Oslo, Copenhagen, Hamburg, Berlin, Leipzig, Dusseldorf, Cologne, and Amsterdam. And I found that that was one of the best ways I could get my street photography fix. What I learned from that trip was that I was changing cities almost every day. I probably stayed in one city at most 3 days. Every time I'm in an unfamiliar space. One of the things that I learned that helped was doing laps, or not staying in the same place for too long. I didn't know that there was a name for this, but I recently watched a video by another photography YouTuber named George Holden, and he mentioned the concept of looping. I'll link his video down below, and basically it's removing yourself from a space if you've been there for too long. And when you do loops or laps around a block or an area, you will start to see something new. You will start to notice something new. But also at the same time, you are building a relationship with a space. You're building familiarity and comfort with a space. But you're not building the comfort and familiarity by being there for a long period of time, because then it starts to get weird. Other people will notice that you've been standing in the same spot for a while. As a woman, I definitely felt other people notice that I was standing in a spot for a long time, and like continuing to move around in the space not only was good for my creative juices, but also for my safety. And generally, yeah, if you remove yourself from a space and you re-enter it, you will notice something new. Next question is from my British YouTube bestie, Tom. What's the number one thing that your younger self would be proud of you for? Oh, this is a very big one. Let me define what younger self means. So younger self to me means early to mid 20s. maybe even towards late 20s. And I think my younger self would be proud of me for finding the courage to start a YouTube channel. It sounds silly, but at the heart of that answer, it's ultimately not being afraid to share my perspective on things. When I was younger, I had a hard time saying what was on my mind, and I think what having a YouTube channel has helped me with is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I think what creating and being a creator has helped me with is forcing me to be a little bit more self-aware, more focused, more grounded, because my younger self probably thought she could never break out of that cycle of insecurity or feeling lost or feeling this overwhelming need to have everything figured out. And what I observe about myself these days is that I just care mostly about what's next and not feeling like I need to know what to do for the rest of my life. So my younger self would be so proud of me for finding some semblance of calm and confidence.
Anyways, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for sending in those questions, and thank you as always for subscribing, for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!